Hello, I want to talk to you about thinking outside of the toy box, and that simply means just looking at all of the things that you provide for your dog that on a daily basis, and really evaluating what they provide for your dog with respect to their emotional satisfaction and their mental health and well-being. And the reason why I'm wanting to talk to you about this is because it's so important. When we think about things like dogs chasing balls and frisbees, I mean, look, it can be really lovely to see dogs really enjoying themselves and playing chase or fetch with a ball. But we need to be mindful of the repetitive nature of that sort of activity and the neurological and also the physiological effects that it has on dogs, especially because that sort of activity, that repetitive nature, does have a tendency to increase our dog's arousal levels, and that can also turn that activity into a ritual for them, and they can become obsessed. It can be an obsession with some particular dogs, and that also depends and is influenced by their breed and their breed characteristics, as well as their personality and their confidence levels. But certainly there's a lot of breeds out there, a lot of dog breeds that, you know, their specific breed purpose were to either hunt or fetch, retrieve, dig things out, track things, and even things like herding. So, you know, working dogs such as cattle dogs, border collies, Australian shepherds, those sorts of dogs. Now, when we think about those behaviours and those instinctive behaviours that those breeds were born to perform, when we talk about the 21st century dog, now often we have every single breed that you can imagine shoehorned into a backyard without anything productive from their point of view in which to express the behaviours that they need to do because they were born to do those behaviours, but also the behaviours that they prefer to do. And I talk about this quite frequently in my videos about helping our dogs to express and perform the behaviours that they want to do as well as the ones that they need to do. And so I want you to think about the activities that you provide your dog and really evaluate them from those criteria that I talked about earlier about their emotional satisfaction, the productivity from their mental health point of view, and also how they're actually helping your dog to express the behaviours they need to as well as the ones that they want to do. Now, it's really interesting because chasing a ball isn't actually really a natural behaviour, if you like, for a dog. And we have to think about the behaviour sequence of what that looks like when a dog is chasing a ball, catching it, and then bringing it back. So it can actually have obviously some similarities to what wild dogs would do in their natural environment, which is hunt and capture prey. And of course, the chase and the capture sequences of that particular behaviour is pretty similar when we think about seeing our dogs running and fetching and catching a ball and bringing it back. But when we look at the sorts of things that our dogs are instinctively needing to do, we overlook one very important thing, and that's their olfactory foraging and their behaviour based around working for their food. And so this video is all about going through a little chain of footage that I've got of Marco and Morty, similar to what we can see here with their food puzzle toys, and just talking about some homegrown activities that you can provide for your dog, and also talking about how to recycle them and make them look new from your dog's point of view, even though they are similar. And it's very easy to do, and it's also very important that we provide things for our dogs that promote olfactory foraging and promote their olfactory sense, because that is something that they're born to do, but it's also something that they prefer to do. Now, it's also important that we provide our dogs with something that is mentally stimulating but mentally productive, because when we think about repetitive behaviours, as in chasing a ball and fetching the ball, bringing it back to us, they're very difficult to retrain because they are self-rewarding, but they are self-rewarding in a way that isn't beneficial from your dog's point of view. And As I mentioned, they have lots of physiological effects. They raise their heart rate, their blood pressure, they raise the adrenaline levels, they can also raise the stress levels in our dog. And if our dog isn't able to return back to their normal baseline because they're still obsessed with that activity and want to continue that activity, you can see how difficult it is to then redirect your dog to a behaviour that is desirable from their point of view and your point of view, particularly calm behaviour, and being able to just be receptive to be able to perform any requests that you might want them to do, like go to their mat and settle down. And so this is why helping our dogs to express their instinctive behaviour around foraging is so important. And I'm just going to go through a video now of some footage. So this is just some really easy ideas that you can provide for your dogs. And here I have this is a little dog bed, and I've put in a dressing gown, and I've actually put some food treats in the pockets and as well as in the sleeves, and Morty's having a good sniff. So he's really getting his nose working there. And Marco actually has some treats rolled up in a towel for him. So he's having a nice little sniff, and they're both foraging and working for their snacks. They're working for their part of their total volume of the food that they get over the course of a day. Now here is just a variation on that theme, and instead of having the dressing gown, I've got just an old gardening shirt, an old flannelette shirt that's been washed, and I've tucked treats into the pockets as well as inside the sleeves, again for Morty. But here I've actually rolled up some treats in a little half a towel, an old towel that's been torn in half because it was quite old. So and that's just been poked into an old shoe, and he's having a nice chew and a forage for that. In the meantime, Marco's having a nice forage on his snuffle mat, and a snuffle mat is a really great way to provide your dog with some mentally rewarding stimulation, but also to be able to provide them with part of their total volume of their food over the course of a day. Now here's another way to make things homegrown and make them look different from your dog's point of view. I've simply put in a chew toy, pressed some cooked chicken and some kibble in those plaited areas, and just put that in the cardboard box. And that was just a box that I received a silicone-based licking mat that I thought I'd keep and use as a treat dispenser. Now here's another variation. This is an old pillowcase. So what I've done is I've put in some treats in the pillowcase, but left the open end of the pillowcase open so Morty can sniff in, and of course sniff down into the sole of the shoe and retrieve those treats. But if he tears into the pillowcase, that's not a problem because they're specifically being used for this purpose. Now another really great activity is just allowing our dogs to enjoy a good chew. And so here Marco's enjoying a rabbit ear, and Morty's enjoying his rawhide chew, and Marco's just putting a little bit more distance between him and Morty so he can have a little bit more of a comfortable chewing session for himself, and Morty's really enjoying that. Chewing is a really nice behaviour for dogs because it's also a calming behaviour, and so you can see how you can use these activities in ways to help you calm your dog down in phases as well, especially when you've just had an exciting activity and you want to then get them to calm down at home. And here's another variation. Now, I put these on Morty's bed because I wanted him to associate some calm behaviour with his bed, and I just hid some treats in the same way that I did for the other examples. And here's another one here. We've got Marco enjoying a little treasure box out of an old tea bag cardboard box, and at the same time, Morty's got one of these, which is just a Tetra Pak, and that's just filled with a small amount of kibble and some cooked chicken and pressed down. And then he's going to tear through that because he really loves chewing, and that's very, very rewarding for him, but productive as well mentally. And here you can see he's got a heavy cardboard box, which is one of Bruce's empty bird seed boxes. And at the same time, Marco's enjoying foraging through for some treats again. And in this case, I also have some paper packaging, stiff paper packaging that was perfect for wrapping in some cooked chicken and some treats for Marco to forage through there. Well done, Morty. So I just want you to be able to understand the the emotional effects that particular toys have on our dogs, and how sometimes what we think might be beneficial for our dogs from their point of view, because they're getting physical exercise and they're running around and having a great time, isn't really as beneficial as we might have thought at first glance. And that's because from an emotionally satisfying point of view and a neurological and physiological point of view, with respect to our dog's stress levels, hormones and mental health and well-being, those repetitive activities can keep our dogs overexcited, and it can be difficult for our dogs to then learn how to be calm in other situations that are occurring soon after that. And if they do enjoy that repetitive activity a lot, then they can actually become obsessed with that. And then that's when we start seeing the breakthrough of behaviours that can be very detrimental and very difficult and challenging to retrain out of our dogs. So when we're thinking outside of the toy box, we're doing a number of things which are really important from our dog's point of view. The first thing is we're evaluating those activities from the point of view of our dog's emotional satisfaction in a beneficial way, as well as their ability to direct their mental energy in a way that's productive from their point of view, both neurologically and physiologically. The third point is that we're also evaluating those activities based on how they're able to help our dogs perform the behaviours that they need to do on a daily basis, but most importantly, the ones that they prefer to do. So, on that note, I hope you enjoyed the video and we'll talk again soon.